Tesla's most recent earnings call, Elon Musk had this to say.
As people have seen, the EV adoption rate globally is under pressure, and a lot of other auto manufacturers are pulling back on EVs and pursuing plug-in hybrids instead. We believe this is not the right strategy.
And I believe that Elon Musk is correct. That's putting it lightly. In fact, I saw some guy with 3 first names post this recently on X, and I really agreed with the post. It included an image showing the X curve of disruption, the transition from horses to automobiles as a percentage of all miles travelled. We can see approximately 1900, basically all miles travelled were on horses, none automobiles. Roughly 15 years later, the crossover point, the number of miles ridden on horses plunged, had halved, a dramatic collapse, especially given that around 1905, 5 years in, the number of miles travelled by horses was still in the high 90% range. In the next 10 years, from well over 90% down to 50. 10 years after that, give or take 15%. The thing about disruption is it sneaks up on you, then out of abso-fucking-lutely nowhere. Bam! Remember, last year, roughly 10% of all new vehicles sold on Earth were electric. We're not including, of course, fake electric vehicles, known as hybrids. So back to that post from the guy that I happen to agree with. Legacy automotive manufacturers today. We know how to make horses, but notice people want automobiles. Instead of going all in on automobiles, we are going to sell you horses carrying an automobile on their back. We will call them hybrids. Nothing could possibly go wrong. This is what I picture. Every time I hear about a legacy automotive manufacturer producing hybrids or claiming that consumers want hybrids, not electric vehicles, from an engineering point of view, it's completely fucking senseless. It's brain dead. The worst of both worlds. Expensive, complicated, unnecessary, stupid. But why? The reason is these legacy automotive companies have realised, in my opinion, that they're fucked. They know that they can't profitably produce EVs. They're not going to try because they're trying to compete with Tesla and Chinese EV makers. They know they're not going to win. So instead, they all appear to be adopting an extremely short-term strategy, which is, let's milk the loyalty of our existing customers, the kind of people who only ever buy this brand or that brand, because that's what our family drives, that's what I drive, that's what we drive, I'm a X brand man. And let's dupe them into thinking that it's a good idea to buy a fucking horse with a car on its back, aka a hybrid. This will work for a few years, until word spreads that they're an idiotic idea. We already know how to make horses, so if we stick a little car on the back, whatever, we can do that. We can milk some profits for the next few years and then file for bankruptcy. When Musk talks about automotive manufacturers moving towards hybrids and that not being a good idea, he's right. But, let's be honest, they probably don't have much choice. They try to pursue EVs, they're going to go bankrupt anyway. May as well milk some short-term profits and then ride off into the sunset. And by sunset, I do mean file for bankruptcy. Oh, speaking of, Ford backs down from going all electric in Europe in 2030. Ford is the latest automaker to delay its lofty EV goals. In February 2021, Ford announced plans to sell only electric passenger cars in Europe from 2030. However, the slower than expected adoption of EVs is forcing... By the way, I just have to once again emphasize here. People seem to be confusing severe lack of affordability and sky-high interest rates for a signal that consumers don't want EVs. It's just that at this point in time, most electric vehicles cost significantly more than a comparable ICE vehicle. Tesla is an exception, but everyone else. Higher price points and worse performance. And now that interest rates are through the roof, affordability is a major obstacle for many people who previously would have purchased an EV and now like, well, fuck it. I can't afford one, or I don't want one, or I'll delay the purchase. This is creating a false signal. Regardless, it's forcing the company to revise its initial plan. The new strategy doesn't rule out selling vehicles with combustion engines into the next decade. You heard right, folks. Ford, currently in Europe, not ruling out the possibility of selling internal combustion engine vehicles in the 2030s. Automotive News Europe cites Ford of Europe's general manager, saying ICE could live to see the 2030s. Quote, if we see strong demand, for instance, for fake electric vehicles, we will offer them. What a weak and pathetic position. This is a combination of severe brain damage and no balls. Consumers want electric vehicles that they can afford. Your job is to make electric vehicles that you don't lose tens of thousands of dollars producing that they can afford. No pun intended, by the way, Ford. What this general manager in Europe is saying is, we're gigantic pussies and we don't know if we're even going to try to produce compelling, affordable electric vehicles for consumers. We're just going to take the wait and go bankrupt, wait and see approach, which also is the wait and go bankrupt approach, and just wait. Because it's not obvious to us at this point in time that the transition's happening, the disruption is underway, that consumers no longer desire horses. Plus, it's going to be really hard, so we're not going to commit to anything. Weak source. Ford has been preparing for an all-electric passenger car lineup in recent years. It shockingly ended production of the Mondeo on the 4th of April 2022 at the plant in Valencia, Spain. The article goes on to describe some other vehicles Ford has recently killed. I've skipped ahead a fair bit. Again, I just want to point out some of the absurd narrative we're hearing now. Ford has taken a huge risk by axing some of its most important nameplates, hoping EVs would catch on. Demand for electric cars is cooling down. This again is false. I recently covered surveys. Roughly 3/4 of people who are purchasing a vehicle in the next 5 years intend on purchasing an electric vehicle. And you can fucking count on the fact that a couple of years from now, that same survey is going to have a much higher number. It's over. Next 5 years, practically everyone buying a new vehicle is buying an electric vehicle. The fact that affordability is a challenge right now, and most electric vehicles are still more expensive than a comparable ICE vehicle, that's the obstacle. That isn't an indication that consumers don't want electric cars. It's just they can't afford them right now. And I do wonder, I think about these legacy automotive companies, I'm like, are they really that fucking dumb that they think consumers don't want electric vehicles? Or do they realize they're going to go bankrupt and they're just pretending that consumers don't want electric vehicles, using this as an excuse to slow down and pursue the old milk some profits short term, get our golden parachutes, ride off into the sunset and let the company go bankrupt strategy? I still don't know, but I can't imagine they're that dumb, honestly. I'm just kidding. I'm an idiot. Elon's an idiot. Pursuing hybrids is a great idea. Why didn't Tesla think of that?
And electric vehicles will ultimately dominate the market.
Elon also announcing that Tesla would be starting production of new affordable EVs by early 2025. A lot of investors cheering that news. Joining us right now is John McNeil. He is a DVX Ventures CEO and a former Tesla president. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So tell us how we're supposed to think about this, because I think a lot of investors were both looking at both the sales piece, which is the decline and what's happening to EVs. The bulls are saying this is great news that the lower priced vehicle may be coming. Unclear what the timeline really looks like, because robotaxis are also apparently part of this. And then there's a CapEx piece of this, which is how much money they're actually going to spend to do this. It seems like they're pulling back a little bit on some of their sort of big plans to sort of completely remake these factories, and are sort of taking a middle path in terms of using some of the facilities they already have.
Reasonably fair assessment. To be clear, this is an interim step. Tesla hasn't abandoned their completely next-gen vehicle, but they have decided that before they're all in on that next-gen vehicle, they're going to implement all the stuff they've learned, developing that manufacturing system that is able to be implemented in existing facilities on existing production lines without new construction, without a huge capital outlay. And Tesla has said this is likely to get them to about 3 million units per year.
Is that a decent summary of what's happened on that call?
I think that's a decent summary. I think you had kind of two contrasts yesterday. You had the GM earnings before the market. You had the Tesla earnings after the market. GM did a triple beat, and they are getting through their production issues and now ramping EVs, which I think creates demand challenges for Tesla, because there's so many now EV alternatives coming to market. And so I think they are having to answer the pressure to have lower cost EVs.
Right.
At the same time, they're trying to move the story to autonomy and the longer term autonomous vehicle story.
For the investor, though, today, who's thinking about Tesla, do you have to think about it? And I think he's made the case. You have to think about it as an autonomous vehicle company long term. As
I've said in the past, if you don't think Tesla solves autonomy and has a meaningful slice of that market, it's pretty hard to justify why you'd own the stonk. Correction, why you'd still be buying the stonk hand over fist, which is what I happen to be doing right now, seeming to suggest that I do in fact believe autonomy is a big part of Tesla's future.
To capture the valuations of where even Tesla sits in terms of the stock price today.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of, hey, look over here, when the core business is weak, let's recast a different story. And I think there's a...
Bruh, what? This is a pretty absurd thing to say. Now, it might be reasonable if Tesla hadn't been all in on autonomy, recruiting aggressively for people to help solve this problem for literal years, including when Tesla stock was at its all-time highs. But that's exactly what was happening. Tesla's been banging the drum on autonomy, recruiting aggressively, making massive progress, and urging investors to consider the implications of autonomy for years, irrespective of what the stock's doing. And of all the things, I mean, this is This has got to be one of the dumbest things I've heard somebody say about Tesla in recent times. The company has consistently been banging the drum on autonomy. I mean, what do you think the fucking autonomy days were? All right, moving on.
A little bit of that going on for sure, because their core business is weak, and they were straightforward about that. But I think, to support a valuation, you've got to believe in this recast into autonomous.
Okay, so straight up, do you believe it?
Well, I think there are already two companies that are doing driverless cars, and so there's a race where two are already out there.
Right.
And Tesla, if they can get there, would be the third. And I do believe that cars need to be autonomous. 10 years from now, you probably won't buy a car if it's not.
Okay, so that's 10 years from now. But the question is, given that there are already vehicles that, they have a totally different kind of rig, LiDAR, radar, lots of other kind of sensors. It's a very expensive product. I'm thinking of Cruise and the like and Waymo.
Yeah.
Do you think that Tesla can do it and do it with the tech stack that's already on the vehicle, which is to say that Elon has said repeatedly he wants to be able to do this whole thing with cameras and processing power?
Yeah, I think that's the big question. Like, we've been waiting since 2015 for the finish line to arrive, and the finish line keeps moving out and out and out. And people that work on this problem say, hey, we're 95% done, but the last 5% is like as big as the first 95%. And so where that finish line is when we finally get there, whether it's Tesla or others, I don't think anybody knows. But we're closer than we've been.
And in terms of these more affordable vehicles, do you think those will compete well against what you're seeing out of GM and what you're seeing out of these other car makers?
I think you need you've got to open the market, and the broad market is at the lower price. And so
that is obviously accurate. And this isn't a matter of feelings and emotions or opinion, but fact. Here are the facts based on real sales data of vehicles globally. And what we're looking at here is a price point in hundreds of thousands of dollars, US dollars, along the bottom, e.g. over $100,000. You're literally fractions of a single percent of the addressable market. At $75,000, you're still not even 1%. In the $60,000 range, you're still, maybe if you're lucky, almost 1%. By $50,000, you're now probably 2 or 3% of the market. Around $40,000, you're getting close to, but not quite, 4 or 5% of the market. Most people on Earth cannot afford to drop $40,000 on a vehicle. Incidentally, that's about as affordable as Teslas are today. But something wild happens around that $30,000 mark. Suddenly, from addressing, if you're lucky, 5% of the market, every $1,000 you can shave off the price of a vehicle, a linear decrease every $1,000, you see an exponential increase in the number of people who can afford and buy it. And this is not hyperbole. You can see on screen now the effect, the sweet spot in terms of price points, getting bang for buck, literally. You can get a vehicle to the market around that $30,000 US dollar mark. Suddenly, less than 5% to 10, 15, 20 plus % of the market, 30%, approaching 40%, hit the $25,000 mark. Suddenly, now you're over 50% of the market. And something staggering happens from that point. If you can drive the price from about $25,000 US dollars down to about 20, you've now suddenly addressed close to 100% of the vehicle market. So Tesla right now is trapped here. Oh, and will this be an awkward time to mention that despite the fact that Tesla has price points trapped here, the world's best-selling vehicle last year, Tesla's Model Y, is here? How the fuck? Good question. So Tesla's doing their best to bridge the gap from here to here to here to here. And this interim range of vehicles is going to start driving toward that $25,000 price point and massively opening up the addressable market. By the time Tesla's next-gen vehicle hits production lines, it's game fucking over. Of course, Tesla did tell us, in 2006, that that's what they were going to do, ride this, and they've been doing so ever since. So just as companies like Ford, GM, and practically every legacy automotive manufacturer are scaling back their EV production, which means they won't be able to drive costs down, Tesla's working on this interim vehicle and the subsequent generation at $25,000 US dollars. Plus, autonomy is also happening at the same time.
So in a couple of months, you can buy a Chevy Equinox after the tax incentive. It's like $27,500 for a 300-plus mile range car. That's a small SUV. And there are a number of those vehicles coming out, and I think that's going to be formidable competition. It's going to give the consumer a lot more choice.
Should we be more concerned, though, about the competition or more concerned about the idea, even, that the EV adoption is not staying at pace, right? That's
There's that narrative once again. Let's ignore interest rates. Obviously, consumers don't really want electric vehicles. The horse is absolutely here to stay.
the sort of bigger overhang of the whole situation? Are people going to go to hybrids? Are they going to stick with combustion engines? What's really happening here?
I think, like, we all knew the first quarter was coming, and what happened in the first quarter was most of the manufacturers lost the tax incentive credit. That is now back. So I think we're going to see very different numbers coming out of the rest of the year, because it was a slow first quarter, because consumers are smart. They know if they wait a few weeks or a few months, they're going to get it.
Is it that if they wait, they'll get it, or is it just that this market doesn't work without government incentives?
I think if they, it's a little bit of both. Like, you've got to make EVs affordable, and so the government's helping while the car manufacturers bring their prices down and their costs down, and those cost downs are happening. So I think when you have like a Chevy Bolt, and that's priced in the 20s, you've got a very viable car without tax incentives, even more viable with tax incentives.
But the hybrid situation is a real one, too. I mean, we just had a car manufacturer, car salesperson, group one, who heads all these car companies. Said consumers really want hybrids, too, when they're walking in there.
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake. This is some form of mass psychosis. EV demand slowing, consumers want hybrids. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the horse is here to stay.
Yeah, there's a difference between hybrids and plug-in hybrids. Hybrids tend to be more expensive than gas, so it doesn't answer that cost issue or price issue. But plug-in hybrids, you can get the range that most people drive every day with a plug-in hybrid. And so I think you're going to see people leaning into plug-in hybrids, and that's where GM.
What do you make of the sort of political divide around EVs? You talk to some leaders of vehicle makers today, and they say, look, in red states, buying an EV is not a palatable product. That this is.
I see where this is going. There is a grain of truth. However, something miraculous is happening outside of the extremely small pockets of the United States, in which many people think that everyone thinks and believes the exact same things that they do, including Elon bad. How dare Elon try to protect children, etc. There are many people who previously believed quite strongly that electric vehicles are a scam, they don't make a difference, blah, 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 who now suddenly, after seeing Musk drop $44 billion to allow people to freely share their thoughts, opinions and ideas, speaking out against some of the insane shit that's happening right now globally and especially in the United States, think, damn, this motherfucker is an absolute legend. I'm going to buy me a Tesla just to support this guy. I don't give a shit about the reasons why they produce the vehicles. I just want one to support him. But of course, given the fact that the majority of the mainstream media in the US leans heavily to the left, so too every social media platform except X, that's not the narrative people hear, but it is the reality on the ground. What's this on my screen right now? Some guy driving around in a Cybertruck. Kid Rock in a Cybertruck. How interesting. I see a lot of anecdotes like this comment from literally yesterday. Quote, I know two of my friends that are far right, buying Model S's and swore they would never ever buy one. They bought them to support free speech. Owning an electric vehicle is no longer the look at me, I'm a good person virtue signal it once was. Most people who purchase an electric vehicle do so because they want a great product. Most people who buy a Tesla are people who've done their homework and realised that Teslas literally are the best product on every meaningful metric, if you can afford one. And now, for every person who 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago would have been screaming from the rooftops, hey, look, I'm a good person, I bought an electric vehicle, global warming, I love the environment, yeah! You now have a bunch of people on the political right who are buying Tesla vehicles specifically because they think Elon Musk is an absolute fucking legend. How times change.
It's been so politicized that there's a view that if it's like having a bumper sticker on the back of your car. If you're driving an EV, for a certain type of person, that's a bad sign, and for a certain kind of person, that's a good sign. Maybe it splits across political parties in some ways. Do you believe that is actually happening?
I live in a purple state, but on the red side of the purple state, and I've been driving a Chevy Silverado EV. Okay. It's got 460 miles of range. I pull up in the grocery store, the hardware store parking lot.
Now, I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. Why is he driving a Silverado EV? Now, I'm not going to bother doing the homework, but if I didn't know any better, given the fact that there's superior alternatives, I might wonder, does this guy own some GM stock, or is there some kind of relationship there? It seems a bit strange. Hey, each to their own, of course, but yikes.
I get a lot of questions like, what is that thing? Is it full size? How far? How much range do you get? Can I look at it? And so I don't get that vibe from the farmers and ranchers that are so you don't
believe the sort of
they are not saying, hey, I'm not interested in this because of my political views. They're genuinely
John,
interested in it.
The Biden Energy Information Administration is estimating what U.S. cars percentage by 2050 will be electric. Do you know what their estimate was?
I don't, but I guarantee you it's too low.
That estimate's been moving around a lot between 50%
12.
and now down
12%.
And we're already at about 8%.
12? Now, there's no possible way that they mean new vehicles sold that year, right? It obviously has to be percent of the vehicle fleet. You can't come up with 12%. Like, there's no fucking way that they meant that's how many electric vehicles as a percent of all vehicles will be sold that year, right?
Percent. So I think it's a layup to go from 8 to 12 between now and 2030.
No, this is 2050.
Oh yeah, I don't think.
But that's from the Biden administration.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's not from a red state person. That's from,
I think the car manufacturers have very different views of that market.
Yeah, they've had to revise their. It's cost them some money revising it.
And how big that EV market will be.
So I was about to finish this video up. I kept thinking, why the fuck would he be? I just don't get. And then I thought, you know what? I just have to check. So I checked. I searched for DVX Ventures, the company that this guy apparently founded or is a CEO of or whatever the fuck it said. And I did some digging. They're companies, right? They've got some actual companies here by name, e.g., whatever, Atomic, Cork, Cognition Controls, Zoomy. Then suddenly there's some categories that don't link anywhere. One category includes EV charging. Another category includes EV sales. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Remember I speculated maybe there's a relationship with GM. And I thought, well, since these fucking things don't go anywhere, they're just generic terms, maybe I can do some searching. So I search DVX Ventures, General Motors, and what do I find? I find on the investor relations page of the General Motors website, Jonathan McNeil. Can you believe it? News release details. Entrepreneur and venture capital investor Jonathan McNeil joins GM's board of directors. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I'm still undefeated. God damn, I knew something was up. Why was he driving the GM? I fucking called it, didn't I? GM announced it today. Entrepreneur, who cares? Yeah, his name. Okay, cool. He's joined the board of directors. The guy's on the board of directors at Government Motors, which, by the way, call me crazy, but isn't that a slight conflict you might want to disclose? Maybe they did earlier in the segment and just didn't in the clip that I shared, but I mean, hello. Let's see what he's doing here. I am excited to help GM unlock the opportunities enabled by its transformative investments in technology. So now that makes sense why he is driving a GM vehicle. That didn't make sense. Why he mentioned the idea of a Bolt being sub $20,000 in the future being a big deal and so on. What the fuck? This caught my eye too, but 6 of GM's directors are women. So does anyone care? No. Why does this get... Who cares? Fuck me. Obviously that line is from their DEI department. Cool story, bro. So anyway, I guess we should take everything that Mr. McNeil said with a large grain of salt, especially some of the skepticism around Tesla, autonomy, and the ridiculous claims that Tesla's trying to distract investors. Hey, look, autonomy over there, just because the stock price is down and all the business is currently weak in terms of automotive sales. Now we see why he said what he said. Things are often not what they seem in the mainstream finance media. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 is awesome. I've been taking it daily now for more than 3 years. It's a great way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's packed full of vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus has prebiotics, probiotics, and adaptogens to improve gut health, regularity, and help your body handle stress. I'm always looking for an edge to help me feel and perform my best, which is why I haven't missed a day of AG1 for more than 3 years. And I haven't missed a daily video in more than 3 years. Must be a coincidence, right? Just try it and see how you feel. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs. But don't take my word for it. This is what viewers of the channel had to say after trying AG1. I feel like I have a lot more energy since I started on AG1. By the way, viewer, that makes 2 of us. On to the next. Just got my AG1 in the mail. Legit feeling the effects after day 3. This viewer's been taking AG1 for 8 months and says, what an investment. Another. 3 months ago, I started AG1 and have been enjoying the evenness of alertness and energy that lasts the day. I just started the wife on it too. Are you convinced yet? I mean, hey, it's worth trying, right? Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR or I can keep going. There's plenty more to come. This viewer, after about a month on AG1, definitely a lack of fatigue in the afternoon. Pleasant side effect is that my coffee intake has imploded and is almost down to 0. One more? Yeah, why not? I honestly feel younger and will be continuing to use AG1. This stuff really is crazy good. I didn't think it would be, but this stuff is awesome. It really is what everyone is saying. One more, don't mind if I do. I've just received my 3rd month's supply. I've drank it every day. I have so much energy throughout most of the day. I'm productive, started a new business, started socializing, refurbished a boat. It's no coincidence. Thank you for your persistence, your integrity, and your insights. Now look, these are not my words. These are not my testimonials. This is what you guys and girls are saying. Maybe it's 100% placebo effect. But even if that's the case, I think it's money well spent. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs. If you're still skeptical, hey, I don't blame you. Everyone on the planet seems to be promoting AG1 now, but guess what? They weren't nearly 3 years ago when I had this to say privately to my Patreon audience before there was a relationship, when I was asked about what I was doing for my health, energy, and so on. Just sharing my genuine, honest thoughts about a product I'd recently discovered that was at the time called Athletic Greens, now AG1. If I could only recommend one supplement to take, Athletic Greens, and I'm not getting paid to say this, Athletic Greens is a fucking game changer. I cannot believe how effective this is. No longer having a lack of energy in the afternoons. It's fucking amazing. There's only one thing to recommend, seriously. Try Athletic Greens. You won't go back. So obviously, just like Elon Musk is a liar, a fraud, a con man, a scammer, a fake engineer, and Tesla's going bankrupt, you shouldn't trust that guy from about 3 years ago who, without any financial incentive, was promoting this product to his audience on Patreon when they were asking about health and what he's doing for supplements. Because obviously, there was some other reason he recommended that, obviously. Not sure what it was, but don't trust that guy. And all the testimonials, like my mental game has improved with AG1. I feel better than ever. I'm so impressed I've bought it for both my parents. I feel more focused and have better digestion. Incredible difference. No more afternoon fatigue. It's relieved gut issues. These are all just obviously fake testimonials from fake people. Right? Wrong. Just try it. Unless you hate yourself. If you hate yourself and you don't even want to risk possibly feeling better, this is not for you. But for everyone else, what's the worst that could happen? Try it for a month. See how you feel. It's a no-brainer. Just click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR. You'll get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2 plus 5 travel packs. And you'll take the colossal risk that maybe you might have a similar experience to some of the people whose testimonials we've read in this video.